Welcome to the Pool Nation podcast, where it's all pool talk. And we ain't talking about netting and jetting or splashing and dashing. We're talking about becoming a nation of pool pros. We talk about the latest products, trends, and training in the pool industry. Now let's welcome your host, with over a decade of industry insider experience and still the reigning champion of Marco Polo, Edgar De Jesus, and his co-host, John JJ Flawless, the fastest netter in the West, and Zach the Pool Boy Nicholas.
Welcome, everyone, to the Pool Nation Live podcast with myself, your host, Edgar De Jesus. And yes, I am the reigning champion of Marco Polo, along with John JJ Flawless, the fastest netter in the West, and the famous Zach, the Pool Boy Nicholas. In today's podcast, we're going to be talking about improving your route efficiency and what things you should look at when building your route. We're going to talk about all the things that have to do with efficiency, and that includes the things you should look at when bidding a pool as well. I want to welcome everyone to the live podcast, the podcast where it's all pool talk, and we ain't talking about netting and jetting or splashing and dashing. We're talking about becoming a nation of pool pros. And yes, we will talk about the latest products, trends, and training in the pool industry. Before we get started today, I want to thank our sponsors for this podcast, Ultimate Pool Tools. I can't speak today. Guys, today we have a new sponsor, the SPPA. We'll talk about that. ThePoolmanUniversity.com. We want to thank them for their continued support. Zach, good morning.
Good morning, everybody. I have to let everyone know that Leslie is out of town today and there's no school, so I have the kids hanging with me. So if you hear chaos in the background, I apologize and please bear with me.
We'll have to interview them as well, Zach. Kind of get their thoughts, right, John?
Yeah, no, it makes sense because when we were doing our pre-podcast talk, I was hearing like whips cracking and belt snapping in the background. Now it makes sense. I was like, huh? I get it.
Yeah.
So tell us this, on a scale of 1 to 10, how stressed out are you that you're a single dad?
11.
11?
11.
Oh, man. Leanne used to travel a lot. And so I normally had 4 kids. And at the beginning, it was chaos, John, until I finally just decided to you know what? I need to either drop the hammer or they're going to just run my life. So anyways, John, how you doing?
I think I'm doing well.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think I am. It's been a little side note. You know, every time we do a podcast and you always ask me good morning. I found out a couple weeks ago, Mama, she tells me, I always look forward to the good morning part of the podcast because I never know what the hell you're going to say. And you always say something either off the wall or you'll say something and whatever. And she's like, but last week, she's like, you sucked. It was when Edgar asked you good morning, you just said good morning or I'm looking forward to this, blah, 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 blah. And I wasn't very, I didn't do my normal spiel in the morning. So this morning, I'm going to do this for Mama, and I'm going to tell her my thoughts. You know, the last 6 weeks have been pretty brutal, right? And we've talked about this on the phone, Edgar, Zach, and, through chat and stuff, and everybody knows who talks to me. You know, we've been getting our butts kicked, especially with the wins and what's been happening. But the past few days, it's kind of like really come to a head. And I have, since last night, gained a newfound respect. I learned, right? I leveled up. So I'll just put it that I leveled up mentally. Because when I first started in the industry and I started talking to, pool guys out there, and a lot of them, and I've said it before on the podcast many times, it's like, there are a lot of guys out there that are like really crabby and they're jaded, and it seems like they're miserable. And I didn't get it and I didn't understand it. And not saying that that's okay, but the last couple days, if you were to talk to me and just the way I was and how I felt, I completely related to, I can see 10 years, 20 years down the road, how a person can become that way. And instead of lashing out or getting upset, I was talking to Janie about it and I was like, look, there was a couple clients or a couple customers that I spoke to yesterday because things were frustrating me on how things were working and just certain situations. I'm not really going to go into details, but I was like at the point where I called Janie up and I said, okay, look, we're going to send a notice to this customer and this customer and this customer because I'm not having this shit anymore, or I'm not going to deal with this. I'm not going to do it. But I sat and I told myself, okay, well, I'm going to sleep on it. I'm not going to make any decisions while I'm angry or while I'm upset or frustrated. And then I sat even a little bit longer and I thought about it and I said, okay, look, well, I think that's the wrong approach too. So we all get frustrated and we all get overwhelmed sometimes. And if you're successful at what you do and you're busy and you're good at what you do, people want you and they demand you and they need you and you get phone calls, emails, all these things that happen. The last thing you need to do is get overwhelmed, right? And that's not where I'm kind of getting at. But what I'm saying is you got to be able to sit back and figure out what you need to do to change this so it doesn't happen. And I think this episode in this podcast, we're going to be talking about a lot of those things. And as far as like route efficiencies, how to quote a customer and how to spot certain things, because the majority of the issues that we come across are preventable. And the problem is when we don't pay attention to them until they become an issue. I think, like I said, I leveled up and I matured a little bit, mentally and emotionally over the past couple of days. And we're going to sit down and we're going to take some actions to help alleviate and help keep this from happening. And one of the things we're going to do is, I haven't told Mama this but I'm going to take next week, we're going to take some vacation days and not take vacation. So don't get too happy out there, Mama, but not vacation. This is how sad it is, but not vacation to actually have vacation, but we're going to take vacation from our service route so we can get caught up on everything that we need to get done, because there's just no way I can make it happen with what's happening right now. So anyway, sorry for the long intro, but that's kind of my frame of mind right now.
I talked to John yesterday, and John was kind of having a rough day, and so was I. I had just everything that I tried to do yesterday went wrong, and even my wife and my kids were like, "Whoa, steer clear from Dad, stay away. He's not having a good day." And John said, "Hey, we're going to do the podcast tomorrow, but I'm going to have to be." What was it that you said, John? I'm going to have to be a little bit careful with what I say, or right. You're going to have to deal with me with what I say.
I go, be careful. What did I say? I'm very, I'm on edge, or you know what I mean. I might be a little bit of a prick. Or something. I don't know. I was screaming his belly yesterday. I go, "You sure you want me on the podcast?" I go, "Because damn, I don't know what I'm going to say because I'm like frustrated." And it's nothing wrong to admit these things. And anybody who doesn't admit this is just lying to themselves, because unless you don't have a lot of clients or you have everything down packed and everything's working perfectly, I just can't imagine that in the perfect world. We all go through this. And to pretend like it doesn't happen to us, and even to the best of us, I am very, very, very particular, and I think I have it down, and I go through processes, and we charge right rates. We try to pick the right customers. We're very upfront, very efficient at what we do. We know what we're doing. We know how to do it. It's not the knowledge thing or anything like that, but you still at times you get overwhelmed, and it's okay to admit it. And what's important is not to forget it and to do something about it so that you can prevent it from happening again. So I'm not ashamed to say, hey, look, these past 6 weeks have just been crazy for us.
Best thing about it, John, is that yeah, you're right. We all go through it. I go through it, but you acknowledge it. And so yep. I don't know how many times I'm at the counter of distribution and I'm kind of surrounded by, like you said, these just grumpy people that seems like they hate their jobs and yep. There's no passion left over. And I think that's the end result of not acknowledging this and then figuring yep. out why is this happening and how can we fix it. And like you said, we spend all this time trying to perfect these things and trying to look at all the little ins and outs and how can we prevent it. And it really is a never ending process because the world's constantly changing. But that's a lot of my mindset when I go through and we're growing the Pool Boys. I'm looking at these things. It's like there are things that we do that other people may not understand, but it's an attempt to kind of combat what you're talking about. It may not be the most, customer service oriented because, in the beginning, I was fully guilty of being overwhelmed all the time because I'm constantly bending over backwards and I'm constantly answering calls and doing these things. But you get to a point where you have to draw that hard line. And in reality, it's a solution, even though it may not look like it up front or the customer may not see it that way, but it is a solution that gets the best results for everyone.
Amen. Preach it.
Here's the thing that I enjoy, guys, is I'm always talking to you guys, and John, look at it, and it's been 6 weeks. You guys have gotten hit with those wins hard. And guys, for those of you that don't go through those week in and week out, it's really demoralizing. I mean, you can walk into a backyard, and that's when you kind of sit there and you go, I just want to quit. I mean, I think those one of those the hardest things when you're just pool after pool after pool. They're trash. And I'm not talking just trash, a little bit of leaves on the top, a little bit of leaves on the bottom, but you guys have seen some of those pictures. And some of those, man, you get 2-3 bags, big, huge bags of debris out of it. And then you walk into the next backyard and boom, the next thing. And it just feels like it never stops. But what I enjoy about it, guys, is especially with both of you is John, you even going through this right now and us bringing up this topic to talk about, you're like, there's some things that we need to do to improve. And I think most of the guys just kind of get into that busy pattern and they just do pools and just do pools and just do pools. But I don't think I've ever heard anybody say, hey, we're going to take some time off to really sit down and look at all these other problems and fix all these problems so that we are a lot more efficient. And so I really love that about you and Zach too. It's just, you're always sitting there thinking about these things. So I think this is a perfect topic for today to get into. So I did want to say one thing before we get started, because I do have a couple questions for you guys. And I know that Maria is listening, and Maria posted on our Instagram page, I missed a live podcast, but fortunately you post all the podcasts. I've listened to it 4 times. Thank you, Eugene Lockman, for your story. It inspired me to keep focused on my dreams, even when no one believes that I could do it. And so Zach, John, and I were talking about it, Maria, and we just want you to know that our money is on you, and we believe in you. Just keep focused, and the rest of it will come. Education and the hard work are the key thing. And since day one, you've been doing both. So we got your back.
Sure.
So, John, let's get the show started.
Let's go. All of a sudden, I hear this. I got somebody outside with like a jackhammer. I swear to God. And I paused it, and I'm going out there, and I'm telling you, what the hell's going on out here? I don't know. I'm out there. And literally, there's someone in the front with the jackhammer. So if you guys hear it in the background, my apologies. I don't know what the hell to do.
We definitely can't hear it. Now, let me ask for the people that are listening on here. We have Podbean, and we've been working with Podbeans. We've kind of been having some problems here and there, and we were kind of talking about it today. And I think we should get everybody's thought on it. What do you think? Whether we should do the podcast, but add the element of video to it. For those of you that are in our Insta chat and you think that's a good idea, tell us. And the ones that think it's a bad idea, also tell us, because that way it'll tell us whether, that's something that we should kind of look at or not. So we already got one that says, nope, bad idea. And that was Zach. Oh, that's great, Zach. All right. All right, guys, so let's get started. Let's jump into our topic for today, and I think it hits the perfect timing for it. So, John, I want to start with you. Let me ask you this. So what are some of the things that you've learned the hard way when it comes to improving your route or the efficiency of your route from when you started to today? So what are maybe some of the common things at the beginning that you kind of look at now that are no-brainers to you? Well,
oh boy, where do I start with this? As prepared as I thought I was, and we were prepared, and I'm going to give us credit and say there was a lot of things that we did ahead of time before we started taking on accounts that, as far as like business side, financial side, stuff like that, how to talk to customers, approaching stuff like that, we kind of had that. But the things you don't really understand, or the things you really don't know unless you know, because you're not in the industry and you don't see them. But one of the biggest mistakes I think we made at first was how spread out we are as far as the pools that we take and the clients that we took. We have days where I'm traveling, right? If we drop that one account, we'd be able to do a total of at least 3 pools. And I think that's kind of what kills us, is being just really spread out And we're working hard. And, we talk about us doing the top 5, bottom 5. And one of the biggest factors in us dropping an account is distance and how far away it is, because there's things you don't think about. And it's, your drive time and how long your day takes. But, when there's issues too, because there's always going to be issues, or there's always going to be questions. And if you get a phone call or you get a text message or an email where you need to make a service call or go out after hours or go during your day to go see a home, and you're not traveling 45 minutes out. Some days I leave our place and we start off 45 minutes out, and then I work my way back home. And it's all fine and dandy that day. But what happens during another day when you're close by and you need to go make that service call? Now you got to go drive 45 minutes there and 45 minutes back. That's an hour and a half out of your day. How many pulls can you take care of in an hour and a half? So I think the biggest one, and we'll kind of get into the other ones later, but is how spread out I am on my homes, and it just makes it really, really tough for us.
Yeah, that's one of the things that, at the beginning I had my route and it was a little bit spread out. And then I figured I needed to move to where there was more higher end homes and kind of moved all my pools up there. But when it became very clear for me is we started doing a lot of the vacation rentals. And so all the vacation rentals were all literally like right around Disneyland. And we were 2.5 miles from Disneyland. But it got to the point where, I'd put my guy to do the pools of the residential. And man, I was almost able to do like twice the amount of pools that he did, because it was literally one of those where I pulled into a street and I've got 5 pools where I park my truck and I don't have to drive anywhere. I'm like, boom, 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 boom. So there's a lot of those things that you cut out. And at that point, it's like the light bulb went off and it was like, okay, we really need to focus on optimizing that route. And then I start thinking about, John, like you're talking, is I remember my Fridays, I swear, I think on Fridays, I used to do like 8 or 9 pools, but because of my drive distance, that was almost the entire day, because I was going out to like 4 different cities just to do, these pools. And then at that point, it was like, I need to get rid of these pools and I need to start focusing. So I did the same thing you did. As soon as I would pick one up closer to somewhere else on the route, I'd get rid of that other pool that was further out. And then eventually I got rid of all that Friday. But I think that's something that when you're new, you start trying to take anything and everything that you can take, right? And I think that's just a natural thing. You want the money, you want all that. But you really need to start thinking about that, because if you do have those 2 pools that are a 40-minute drive, you're driving 40 minutes there, 40 minutes back. It's a lot of time that you're going to be losing. And I think, John, you talked about this yesterday, and we'll kind of go into detail about it. And I thought was huge was the bidding process for those pools, and kind of talk to the guys about, how in reality they should be bidding those pools that are further out. And I'm going to ask you that here in a minute. So, John, let me ask you, what are some of the tangibles that maybe you didn't think about when you started bidding pools, and now it's part of your normal process to bid a pool when it comes to route efficiency?
So how very, very, very important the initial visit is, and not in the way that some people would think. Usually, you're first starting out, or even if you've been in the business for a little bit and you get a customer client that calls you for an estimate or for a quote, it's important because you want the account, you want that revenue, you want the extra business. Not in that way, though. I don't want you to think about it. I want you to think about how critical and vital that first initial interaction with that customer and walking into the backyard is, because it sets the tone for everything, and it has consequences. You got to get out of the mindset of what do I need to do to get this account, and be more like, why would I not want this account? And there might be a hard pill to swallow, and I hope it doesn't come off like arrogant or anything like that, but that's how you need to approach it. And by doing it like that, you're able to just alleviate and remove so many unnecessary problems down the road that you might not foresee at that moment, especially when you're first starting out, because you just lack the knowledge and the experience and the wisdom behind it. And things like this is what I'm talking about is, when you when you're talking to a customer, when you're there, you never want to give a quote over the phone. Not even a quote, but just say, I'll accept the pool. Because how many times do we get a client that says, oh, I have a standard pool. It's a 10 by 20 or 15 by 25. It's a normal pool, regular pool, has equipment, salt pool, right? Okay, this is what our price is, and then can you start? I've talked to many pool guys over the years where that's how they gain business, or they'll get a phone call and then they'll accept the account and they'll go do it. And if I remember correctly, I think, Zach, you were talking about that's what you used to do too, right?
Yes.
And it's the biggest mistake you can make. It really is. And you might get lucky once or twice, but in reality, those are going to turn out to be headaches. And what I mean by that is when you walk into a backyard, you need to put on your negative cap on, and you need to look at and list all the bad things that are wrong with the pool, as far as like landscaping, as far as condition of the pool, the equipment, the age of the equipment, where the pool's located, the access to get into the backyard. Are there dogs? Are there kids? Is it a rental? All these things you got to check off in your head, and you got to figure out, is it worth it, or why should I not keep it? And you come up with the pros and a cons list of, okay, this is why I should have this account. This is why I shouldn't have this account. And it's a little tricky because you have to do all this while you're there. You can't actively just write down these notes and do all this kind of stuff and then say, okay, I'll get back to you and tell you if we want to take over the pool. You have to mentally prepare yourself, and you have to be ready the minute you walk in. As soon as I drive there, I pay attention to everything from how I get there to the house, how my interaction went with the customer. Were they there when I first went out, when they were supposed to be there? Did they answer the door? Were they friendly? When we get to the backyard, is it locked? Are there like 3 gates I have to go through? When we walk back there, can my riptide fit back there? Are there, as far as like the landscaping and those types of things are all going through my head when I'm talking to the client. And it's, I almost literally, I sit there and I try talking myself out of a pool the majority of the time. And I find that works best. And it's hard. It's hard to do at first, but I promise you it works out in the long run, because if you don't take those things into consideration right now, when you're bidding that pool, and especially if you don't have a candid conversation with the customer and explain to them about some of the deficiencies in their backyards. Like, I'll give an example. We just picked up an account about 3 or 4 days ago, and fits nicely in my Wednesday route. It's right across the street from another community. The pool is probably 12,000 gallons. PebbleTech has a lot of old equipment. The backyard's a mess. And I talked to her and I told her, I said, Sarah, we'd love to be able to help you out and take over this pool, but I just want to be upfront and honest and blunt with you. There's some things that we're going to have to take care of in order for us to do it, and in order for us to be able to take care of your pool properly. And, we talked about the cleaners, putting the cleaner in and that kind of stuff, but her whole back wall was full of bougainvilleas. And it's literally like 1.5 feet away behind from where the pool deck is at. And I know, especially out here, that the pool is just going to be completely thrashed constantly, and there's no way you can keep up with it. And her equipment, she had a pump that wasn't working, she had a filter that was leaking, and her salt system that wasn't running, and her heater that was misfiring, right? So I told her and I explained to her, and yes, it takes a while to do these initial visits, but I said, look, Sarah, I'm just going to be honest with you and blunt with you, because we want to make sure your experience is great and our experience is great and we can take care of your pool properly. If you want us to be able to take care of your pool, these are some of the things that we require before we can even start service. And one of them is these bougainvilleas that you have in the back. These are going to have to get removed just because of the way it is. And she's all, I agree with you 100%. She's all, yeah, that's what they are. I'm sweeping them up every single week. I go, trust me, if you get rid of these, you will be so much happier as far as the way your backyard looks and the way your pool looks. And she's all done. I go, your equipment wise, you have issues. In order for us to take care of your pool properly, we have to make sure that your equipment's running properly, because if it's not running properly, then we're not able to service it the way we're supposed to, and we take longer doing it, and it costs more to do it. So we're going to come up with a hit list, and that's what I do to talk to the customers about. And I say, hey, look, at our initial visit, we have a hit list, and I'll give you a priority. And I'll tell you things. These are the things that have to get done now, and these are some of the things that can get done down the road. Like, for instance, the heater. If the heater doesn't work, I don't care if the pool isn't heating and you don't need it done right now, it's not going to prevent me from taking care of that pool correctly. If you don't have the money, or if you don't want to purchase or replace or fix the heater right now, that's no sweat off my back. I'm cool with it. I'd rather have a 70-degree pool all year than a 90-degree pool. Fine. but your pump has to get taken care of. Your salt cell has to be replaced in order for us to do it. And she's like, absolutely. You just tell me what we need to do and we'll take care of it. And it's all about setting the tone so they understand it. And when you do that, they have a clear understanding. One, they give you a level of respect because they know that you know what you're talking about, that you take your job seriously and you're not just desperate for the business. And then they turn into a great customer and a great client. So she signed us up and we took care of it and everything was good. But it's those types of things that I never did when I first started because I was in the mentality of I didn't really understand those things or how it really affected and how it hurt us in the long run. And it came to bite us in the butt, a few years back. And we had to dump or get rid of a bunch of accounts that hurt us because we just didn't bid them correctly. And now we do it a little bit differently. And I challenge you guys to go back there with that type of mentality. And I promise it'll work for you in the long run because you don't have to hit every single account or get every single account. But the ones you do get, you want to make sure you want them and you want to make sure that they're going to be profitable and they're going to be good clients. So I hope that answered the question.
No, absolutely. And, that's key. That I think one of the biggest things that everybody needs to understand especially a lot of the newer guys, is when you're going out to bid a pool and you're meeting with that customer for the first time, that's your chance to really go through that pool from A to Z and be able to tell the customer, look, these are the things that need to be done. And that's when they're going to be most apt to say, yes, go ahead and do it because you're new, it's fresh. They got rid of their pool guy because there was a problem. Here comes somebody fresh and is telling them, and it could be whatever it is, whether it's equipment or, leaking pipes or a broken heater or water chemistry, right? So if the phosphates are through the roof, you have to make sure that that's the opportunity that you have to go, hey, here's the list of things that we need to do. We need to do a phosphate treatment. The conditioner's too high. Whatever it is, right? The pump seals are leaking. These are all the things that need to be fixed because they brought you because there was a problem and they're going to be apt to allow you to fix those. And like John was saying, you don't say anything and you keep your mouth shut and you have that pump leaking and you don't say anything. And then 2.5 months later, you kind of come and say, hey, here's these pump seals that are leaking. We got to fix those. They're going to be like, wait a second. Well, how come you didn't say this before?
That's great.
And so it's the perfect time when you take over a pool to be able to go through that A through Z. And then, like John was saying, if they're not willing to fix certain things, do you want to deal with that headache down the road? If you have a pump that's not priming properly because they have an air leak or whatever it is, who is it going to affect? It's going to affect you when you're trying to go through it on a busy day and you have to get off early to go do a repair. And now you have this pump that won't prime and you have this pool that's all of a sudden starting to flip on you. And so those are the things that you need to look at from the beginning. And hey, like John said, there's some pools that if they're willing to fix it, fine. If they're not willing to fix it, you need to think about it and go, in my day-to-day operation, how is that pool going to affect my ability to get through my pools and do everything that I need to do?
Amen.
So, John, let me ask you this. So for those guys that say, hey, I still need to take the pool, even if it's far, how would you tell them to price that pool?
Great question. Too many times, and we've all been in this situation. And if you haven't, you're probably going to be in the situation one day. The mentality you would usually have and is normal, especially when you're starting out and you're getting an account that's a little further out or in a different city or in a different town that you usually don't service. We take on that account, or you will want to take on that account because you are in hopes that I'm going to be building a route out in that area. So yes, I take this account. I only have one account out in this area. I have to drive out there, but in 6 months, I'm going to have 10 accounts in that area. So it'll be worth it. I challenge everybody, and I'm telling you, when you go out there and you quote those pools, you need to quote based off current circumstances, not what you're hoping or wishing upon a star that you're going to have, and everything's going to be great in 6 months or 4 months or 3 months or a year, and you're going to have 20 pools out there. You need to price it according to what you need to make it work now. So if you're at $100 or you're at $150 or you're at $175 or $200, whatever in the hell your price is, and whatever it is that makes that account profitable at a profit margin that you've already set and determined that you need a minimum price. Now you need to add on an additional price onto that account so that it's worth it. It includes your drive time and the extra time you're going to take to go out there. And you also have to be upfront with the customer sometimes and let them know, we're blessed. We get called because, we don't do any advertising. We don't do any of that kind of stuff. All our business is off word of mouth. All our business is off reviews and referrals and stuff. So people call seeking us to come service their pool. And they've either heard about us from somebody else or they've heard about us from another client or they read about us. And when we go out there, we explain to them, especially when it's a little further. I don't always say, oh, they're out of our way. But when I go out there and I talk to them, I explain to them, you're a little bit out of our area. And in order for us to take care of it, there's going to be a little bit more that we're going to have to charge in order for us to come out here for it to make sense for us on a business standpoint. And if you're not in that position and you're new, you might not want to tell a customer that. I get it, but doesn't mean you can't price it a little bit higher. And believe it or not, if you sell yourself right and you do yourself right, there's a good chance that they're still going to take it. So when you do land that account, you don't want to have that rate regret that Edgar always talks about. You don't want to regret it. And you want to just make sure that, okay, look, yeah, I'm driving an extra 15 minutes to his house, but he's paying an extra, or she's paying an extra $50 or $75 a month. And you want to price that pool according to what you need now and not what you're hoping for in 5 to 6 months, if that makes sense.
That's a key point. A lot of you guys that are out there that are new, you're kind of building that route. Take that into account. I've made that mistake. I've made the mistake of taking those far pools at the lower rate, and then I'm in the backyard cussing like a sailor in my head, of course, about having to drive all the way out there to do that pool, and all I'm getting is this rate for it. So I'm not I didn't compensate myself to adjust for that.
And look, and Edgar, and I'll say it again, it's not just that either. And we have to look at it like, you think of the damage it does completely, right? All in just your mental state of mind, in your mood, the way you come home, and you might snap at your children, or you might yell at your dog, or you're just frustrated, or when a customer calls and you're busy and you're running behind, it's those little things that you can't really put a dollar amount on, but cost you so much in the long run, as far as like your state of mind and how you feel and whether you're enjoying what you do. Because the minute we stop enjoying what we do is when things start to go downhill, and something has to give. We either got to fix it or you're going to break. And the last thing you want is to put yourself in that position purposely and to know it. And sometimes when you're in that position, you have to make that hard decision of either raising your rate to accommodate for it so it makes it worth it for you, or sell the account or drop the account. Yeah.
Here's the other thing, John, is people will say, I'll take it at this, and then they have to raise the price, but then they're afraid to raise the price because it's harder to raise the price than give that higher quote at the beginning.
Oh, for sure it is. Absolutely it is. It's all night and day difference. Night and day difference. It's tough. You usually have to stick it out for a year or two at least.
Yeah.
You think, oh my God, I got to at least keep this rate for a year. Now I'm going to be miserable for a friggin' year, before you can raise the rate, because you're going to say, oh, well, I misquoted the pool. The customer's going to be like, tough shit. That's your fault. It's not my fault.
Absolutely.
It's almost like you got to get rid of the account. And sometimes you just got to drop it. And then now you wasted all that time and effort into doing something, and now you chance a customer disappoint, and then maybe a bad review or whatever, and it just compounds, and it can turn into something really, really ugly. But what you said was just spot on, Edgar. It's the little things that affect your state of mind, right? And that you can't really put a dollar amount, or you can't really cash that check or make that deposit or take that payment or whatever, but it affects every single thing you do, from the people you talk to the other pools that you service that day, to your family, to your wife, to your husband, to whoever. It trickles down, and it really messes with you. And that is, you just can't really put a dollar amount onto that. But it's worth so much. It's priceless. Your state of mind and how you feel, and wanting to get up and actually do the work, not complain about it and be miserable about it. So it's not worth it.
And we have to realize it's a physical job too. So some days we're able to get through the route and it's not physically demanding and that kind of stuff. But in a situation like what you're in, where it's week after week after week, and I was in California in the Santa Ana winds, when it's week after week after week, it just kind of gets to the point where it demoralizes you a little bit, right? Because you're not able to catch up with cleaning the pools and doing the repairs, and then the vacation rentals are calling and you're doing all that stuff. And so, it's a physical job. So it's bad enough that you're kind of having to push through that barrier. But then once it gets to your psyche, forget it, because that's when you just kind of start to lose it all, right? And like you're saying, John, you kind of get to the point, you get some customer that calls you and they just kind of happen to catch you at the wrong time. They're going to take the brunt of it, and then you're going to regret it later.
Yeah, man. And look, I know I've been talking a lot. I'm sorry, but I mean, like yesterday, I literally walked into a backyard. True story. Walked into a backyard, and I already had this pool cleaned up from the winds. It was trash, big 30,000 gallon pool, and it was trash. But I knew in the last couple of days the winds weren't bad, and I was going to walk back into this backyard, and it was going to be perfect, right? It was going to be nice. I'm going to spend 15 minutes here, and I'll be able to move on. I walk into the backyard, and it is friggin' thrashed, right? Just thrashed. And I look up and I'm looking again and I can see, right? And everything in there are clippings, right? Green leaves, clippings, branches that are like a foot, 2 feet long. The whole backyard's trimmed. And I'm just like, oh my God. And I'm just like, I was at my boiling point yesterday. And I go back there and I knock on the slider after I'm working, and or walk up to the slider, and immediately he comes out and I go like this, come out here. And I go, look, what happened? And he's like, I'm sorry, John. And I go, the gardeners? And he's like, yeah, they came and they did that. And I go, look, man, when the gardeners come and they service your home, their responsibility when they do these trimming is to take these trimmings and to take them with them. Just because it falls in the pool doesn't mean they don't have to clean it up. There's a net and there's a pole that they can grab and they can put it in there. I go, but I'm going to be set back for an hour taking care of this pool. We shouldn't have. I go, I get it. Mother Nature, stuff like that. That's our gig. But when it's done intentionally, that's not part of my job description. And he's like, my apologies, blah, 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 blah. But anyways, after that conversation is like when I hit my tipping point, and I was like, wow. And that's when I talked to Mom and I told her, and I go, look, I need to figure something out, and I need to sit back and I need to think about this. And then we got to figure this all out, because I cannot have this mentality with a client, or I can't walk into a backyard, because we've all been there. When you think you're walking to a backyard, everything's great, and you go back there and it's just, oh my God. And it was like the third to the last pool of the day. I was already working at 11 hours that day, and I'm just so frustrated, and it just got to the point. But it's that type of stuff that trickles down that I'm talking about, that state of mind, and it just eats away at you. And if you don't nip those things in the bud or figure it out, it'll come back to haunt you.
I think I talked to you yesterday right after that, you left that house, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, all bad.
It was, yeah. I caught you, brother. I felt the pain there. So, hey guys, let's take a quick word from our sponsors. And when we come back, I want to read something from the chat, and I want to talk about one of our new sponsors. So let's take a quick word and we'll be right back.
The SPPA is dedicated to the niche general liability insurance needs of pool and spa professionals. As industry leaders, we'll fight for you, protect you, and be there for you. We provide extraordinary service before and after the membership and insurance is in effect. Insured members of the program get the best customer support and have peace of mind that their alliance is their voice and always fighting for their program and insurance needs. We proudly insure thousands of pool and spa professionals across the United States. With over 30 years encompassing the pool and spa industry, we know the needs of pool and spa professionals. Through the SPPA program, there are 3 tailored and customized general liability insurance options to pick from. For more information on our programs and insurance options, visit our site at www.thesppa.com. The sound of you continually pitching pool care poles into the trash. The sound of you using an Ultimate Pool Tools carbon fiber pool care pole for years to come. Go to ultimatepooltools.com or Instagram at Ultimate Pool Tools.
Welcome back, everybody. We're talking to John and Zach. We're talking about route efficiency and the things that you should look at to make sure that your route is extremely efficient, not just from the standpoint of a tight route, but even in the bidding process. Zach, you've been really quiet back over there because I want to get your side of it, but from a different perspective, which is obviously somebody that has a team and has service guys and has maintenance guys. So I might want to talk about, I want to talk about that in a minute. I do want to read something from here. And Jeanette posted on here that she pulled out of an entire town, 25 miles. I had several pools on the way to it. It just never grew. After the existing clients passed away or moved, the new homeowners wanted to take care of the pools themselves. I just left, gave her a 30-day notice. The same day, I picked up 2 pools right around the corner from another pool that I had. And that's what happens. We kind of think that, like John was saying and Jeanette, that they're going to be able to grow in a certain area, and then it doesn't grow. And that 25-mile is a decent drive. Out here, there's not a lot of traffic, but you're still looking at 30 minutes to get out there. And if you hit a little bit of traffic, forget about it. So Mama was saying on here, I was ready to put the beat down on those people at the vacation rental yesterday, John. They just ruined my whole day.
Dude, we just had a terrible day. Mama goes back. We have a vacation rental, really nice, high-end, big, beautiful, $1 million home. And we service that account twice a week because it's an Airbnb, and and they get used up a lot. We went back. She went back there, and everybody was in the pool. They knew we were coming. Our days are Mondays, Thursdays, and they wouldn't get out of the pool. And they wouldn't let us service it. They wouldn't let us add any chlorine to it. The pool is a mess. There's like 8 kids in there. And it's just like, oh my God, it's frustrating. And they were being rude to Mama, saying, you guys were just here a couple days ago. Our pool guy only comes once a week and da-da-da-da. And I go, so it's just like, oh my God. And Jane's like, what do I do? So I go, you got to go. So leave. And so that's one of the things we told the owner. I go, they refuse service. We need to build a services pool. When we come, these are the days we come, and we come every single day on time. This is when we come. This is what we do. We've never had a problem in like 3 years. And she's, I'm so sorry, da 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 da. And they want us to come back today. And I can't come back today. We got so much stuff we got going on. So we're going to go back on Saturday, right? And the pool's going to be thrashed. And there's new check-ins on Sunday, and it's just these like headaches. It was just on and on and on and on. But anyways, it was just kind of nuts.
Those vacation rentals are a beast because you have these backyards that are really kind of meant for a single family, but yet you have, 14 people and they're swimming every single day in those pools.
Like you've never seen water.
And so, yeah. And so I used to do service on Mondays and Thursdays, and man, there was pools that it was one of those where it'd be crystal clear on Monday and you get there on Thursday and it's already got that cloudy, kind of ready to go green kind of look to it, and you get the same thing and they're all swimming and they don't want to get out. And it's like, sorry, people, out, you got to go. But the problem is you can't be rude, right? Because you're still in that customer service standpoint where they're going to complain about the pool guy. So you're trying to be politically correct. Hey, John, really quick, I wanted to talk about the SPPA really quick. And the SPPA is our newest sponsor. And we kind of probably should have talked this at the beginning, but we kind of got into our podcast. So I want to welcome the SPPA to the Pool Nation family. I want to thank Danielle for her support with us, and as well as Ken from the Ultimate Pool. And you're a member of the SPPA, right?
Yes, I am. I've been a member since, I think, 2017. Yeah, 2017.
And so why did you pick the SPPA?
Well, that's a good question. Well, like I said, we were kind of new. I was looking at different plans and different companies that were out there. One of the groups that I joined back then, SPPA was a part of it, and they offered a little special for us to jump in. And I had a chance to talk with Danielle on the phone and kind of go over what they offered and what they did. And their rates were very, very reasonable for what they offered and what they covered as far as like insurance wise. So we jumped on it, and we've had nothing but great experience with them from the beginning. Thank God I haven't had a chance to use a claim, or I haven't had a claim up against me. But insurance is just one of those things you just got to have, in case shit does happen, because the last thing you want to do is destroy everything you built because you made a because of an honest mistake or even an accident that wasn't even your fault, that sometimes they'll try to hold you accountable to. So I think they're one of the most competitive insurance companies out there, and they have great customer service, and they always respond, like email, text, phone call. You call them up, they call you by name, they know your number already, it's saved in there. And every time I need to call them for a certificate or whatever, hi, John, and they call you right back if they don't answer. So I've just had nothing but great service from them, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted them to be a part of what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, I've had nothing but a great experience with Danielle, and same thing with the crowd. And so, guys, they have a couple different packages. So they have the liability, and so like their silver one, which starts at $59, is a $2 million policy. Then that goes up to $69, which is a $3 million policy. And then they have what they call their platinum, and that's a $4 million policy, which is $89. It's kind of very hard to, compete with some of those prices, especially for the amount of insurance that you get. For the additional employees, they're great rates as well. So in the first one, on the silver, which is a $59, if you have an extra employee, it's $39. On the $69, it's $49, and on the $89, it's $69 a month. So for a lot of you guys out there that have guys that are doing pools for you and stuff like that, those are the great rates, because you're going to be able to not only protect yourself, but protect your employees. And the last situation that you want to be is kind of like John was saying, be in a situation where you do need that insurance and you don't have it. And
it's a drop in the bucket compared to what it can cost you in the long run.
Nowadays, the problem is everybody just sues for everything. And so I think I shared my story where there was a guy in our chapter, and he was draining the pool, but the P-trap had been built to where it was on the side of the house instead of the front of the house. The inside flooded, and the people just right off the bat were like, you ruined our wood floors, and we're going to sue you if you don't pay for this, and all that kind of stuff. And he's like, look, man, I've been doing pools for 20 years and I've had insurance the first time. I never thought this was going to happen to me. He goes, but I can sleep at night knowing that I have the insurance, and that's what it's for.
Yeah.
And then I did have another guy that I know, John, that had like 4 guys. He didn't have the insurance, and one of his guys went out, and it was a dark bottom pool, and he used trichlor. And so he threw trichlor into the pool.
Let it sit. Oh my God.
And it all sat there. And all of a sudden the owner is calling him going, you need to come out here because my pool is stained. It's all white blotched at the bottom of it. And so when he got out there, he figured out, shoot, it was trichlor instead of dichlor. And so he bleached the bottom of this thing because he threw a whole bunch of that. And so he ended up having to pay for a replaster job for that entire pool. It's things that you think, oh, it's no big deal, nothing's going to happen to me. But something simple like that, where you accidentally throw in trichlor instead of dichlor on a bottom color pool, and boom, next thing you know, you've got this big, huge problem on your hands. And the only thing that the customer is going to want is for you to replaster, because you can't paint over that. You can't do that. And so now you're in a situation where you're going to have to be putting out thousands and thousands of dollars. And if you're somebody starting, forget it.
It'll end
you. It puts the kebab on you. You're done.
Yeah.
For all you guys out there that are new into the pool industry that don't have the insurance, trust me, guys, it's worth every penny to have the insurance. And then God forbid that something else happens within a pool, a major liability issue where it could be a fatality or it could be any of that kind of stuff. Forget it. Then you're talking whole different ballpark, but at least you're covered and you have that protection for your business. And remember, if you're a sole proprietor out there and they sue you, they'll come after your house, they'll come after your property, they'll come after all that kind of stuff. So we're going to have her on, guys, on our Instagram Live next Wednesday. So I'm kind of excited about that. And then we're going to have her on the podcast, I think on the 16th. So we'll kind of get into the big details with her about, all the policies and why they're important and how they all work. In the meantime, if there's anybody that wants to get a policy, they are going to do a special promo for everybody from Pool Nation. So we're going to announce that then. If you happen to do it beforehand, just let them know, hey, I was listening to the podcast with the guys and they said something, and they will they're going to do some couple different things where they'll, waive some fees and do some stuff like that. So anyways, I'm super excited to have them on. And I believe that this is one of the topic, guys, that we need to completely get into, especially when we're talking to those guys that are starting to build the business. This is one key thing that I think everybody should do at the beginning.
For sure.
Yep.
So,
Wait,
Zach,
where's Zach?
how you doing, buddy?
I'm just taking it all in. Good stuff.
You're taking it all in. So we haven't let you talk at all.
Yeah. It's all good.
It's all good. Here's one of the things that I want to do, Zach, and that is that I really want to get your side, because this is the beauty of our podcast is we always get the different views, and we're going to have guys that are going to want to listen to what you have to say from your business setup and how you do things. The only challenge is we've already been talking for an hour. So
right.
What I want to do, Zach, is I want to split this into 2 podcasts, because I think it's a lot of information that we need to talk about, and come back on the next podcast and kind of ask you all the same questions, but how you work with it within your business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here's the other thing that I want to say, guys, is we threw out the topic to see if we should do a video with the podcast, and nobody even answered. Well, only Jeanette answered. So I think people think that we might be too ugly for TV.
Right.
Right?
I guess they don't want us to do it.
They don't want us to do it. So can at least one person on the Instant Chat say yes? Because it's 2-0. Zach said no. And then Jeanette said no. So let's see. Okay, at least one. There you go. Joel, you're the man. And by the way,
Mama
guys,
no.
Mama said no? No, she didn't. No, bruh.
Am I that ugly, Mama?
Oh, man. I can't believe she went there. Bruh. Joel is saying I have no idea what you guys are talking about. Yeah, thanks, Joel. We appreciate that. He just made it worse.
Jeanette, Sprint does suck. I have Sprint. Oh, my God. That was another frustrating thing for yesterday, too, because on my Thursday route, I'm always in these dead zones, and there's like half of my pools where I never can get service, or when people call, it drops and it cuts. Oh my God, I was so frustrated. Sprint does suck. Absolutely.
But hold on, is that because it's a network thing, or is it because...
Oh, it's an iPhone, Android thing. No, look.
No. I'm not saying Android, because I know that the iPhone sucks. So that we already covered that part. I'm talking about coverage.
Yeah, it was all bad. Yesterday was all bad. Yeah.
So, Zach, let's talk after the podcast, and maybe what we'll do is we'll get a burner phone for John's, that one that has service, so that he can kind of get out there and reach the people. So most of the guys, Billy said no on the video. So I think nobody wants to see our ugly faces. So I think they just want to listen to us. We don't have faces for the TV. So
we'll just leave it up to their imagination.
Yeah, I guess so. And here's Joel now going, okay, yeah, no, sorry, bruh.
I think they think that they're going to be also on video too.
No, guys. So let me explain how it works. Is you guys will still be able to listen to the podcast entirely how you're listening to it through an app, and it'll just be the audio. And it'll be just like this. You have an InstaChat. It's just a different app. It's just the people that want to watch the video can go onto either YouTube or Facebook and watch the live. And then the other thing that it allows us to do is it allows us to, when we post the podcast, we can post just the audio on the platform, and then we can post the videos onto the Facebook or whatever it is. So for you guys, it won't change. It'll be exactly the same way. It's just a different app. But what's happening is we're kind of getting to the stage where we got to step up the game. At least that's what John tells me and Zach. They're like, dude, you need to step up your game. Your game is weak.
The Facebook. Mama's making fun of you. The Facebook.
Man, I feel like Mama,
she's relentless.
Mama, I feel like you don't like me for some reason. Is it because I tie up John with all this podcast stuff and all that kind of stuff? Is it because of that? Come on, respond.
No, she loves it.
She's like, she goes, yeah, I love you, bruh. So I think that's going to be the next thing where everybody just calls me bruh.
Sorry, Zach.
So go. Maria said video would be great. So we just got the one. So anyways, guys, I think we are at the end of the podcast. Zach, I think I want to save your questions for the next podcast because I think yours is going to be about another hour, huh, John?
Oh, yeah. I'm sure. If I can keep my mouth shut, it'll be an hour. But if I keep talking, it'll probably be 2 hours.
That's great stuff, though, man.
Yeah, that was really good stuff. That was really stuff that people don't talk about. So.
I mean, yeah, it has to be said. I mean, we need to hear these things because they're all super, super valid points and, things we went through as well, and definitely needs to be heard.
Yep. So one final question before I take a quick break here and get your final thoughts on this for today. What did you guys think about last week's podcast?
It's gold. I mean, the response has been really good, and just me listening to it after the fact and being able to kind of sit down and really focus on what Eugene is saying, it really inspired me. And that's kind of the thing we keep hearing from everyone is that inspirational piece about how it kind of reignited that fire, relit that flame. Because again, him telling the raw story of all the hardship and all the things that he went through, I'm sitting in my seat just relating. We had two very different experiences, but all of the hardship, the stress, and everything that comes along with it was all there. And so it gave me, at least me personally, like that light at the end of the tunnel. Like, okay, cool, keep trucking, keep moving on, keep doing what you're doing. Like, it's not going to be easy, but there is the light at the end of the tunnel. And if you work hard and you work smart, you could definitely get there.
Yeah. And I was going through the podcast and there was a couple of things some of the things that we've been talking about that he talked about in the podcast. And it's like, we've made a focus of that, right? So, he talks about the sales aspect of it and how big he was into sales and how at one point he was a sales guy of his company. And we talk about, you have to know your sales process. You have to know all that. Then he hit on another point later on in the podcast when he's talking about knowing your numbers and the fact that you have to know your numbers. And if you don't know your numbers, how can you be successful? Because you're not going to know where to adjust and where to make the changes and what rates you're supposed to charge and, all that kind of stuff. And then he gets into, talking about, hiring the right people. And so for you guys out there that are getting to the point where you want to hire people, you want to bring people on, you really have to find those people like what you say, Zach, is that they believe in you. They believe in the Pool Boys. They believe in your company. And those are the employees that are going to help you, catapult your company to the next level. And so I'm kind of listening to it and I wrote down a whole bunch of stuff, which is like, we've talked about this. We made this important. We talked about this. This was important. So it was kind of neat to kind of get his story and kind of hear a lot of the things that we're constantly trying to talk about to the pool guys out there. And they're all in there in his story.
Oh, and it was crazy for me because that bit about the transparency and just listening to that again, it just was a moment of clarity and reassurance for me, because as, people start to grow and they start to build that team, it's a very real struggle. Like, what should I say? What shouldn't I say? How do I get them to buy into the vision and believe? Can they handle it? I had a buddy that wouldn't drive his truck to his office because he was concerned about the optics of that to his guys. And it is definitely just a real fear. But listen to Eugene say, you know what? I'm probably too transparent, but I would do it all over again. For me, it really helped me kind of clear that up in my head.
Yeah. The other thing is I was looking for clips, to post, and normally I'll do like a minute clip and post them on Instagram and stuff like that. But another one that was huge was the very first one that I posted, Zach, which is, he demands such high quality, right? His expectations are so high, but he's got to be careful not to overload his employees, because you can't have both. You can't have that very high level of service, but yet want to get to that mass quantity, right? There has to be that fairness to the employees of, here's my high standards. And in order to be able to achieve that, there has to be this number that allows us to reach that greatness. And so I think a lot of people out there kind of try to do the quantity thing, right? They try to get their guys to do however many, right? It could be 20, 50, 100, whatever pools it is. But there's always that balance between quality, customer satisfaction, and then employee morale. Because if you're demanding constantly big quantity, but high quality, it's really demoralizing for an employee.
Yeah, for sure.
Guys, let's take a word from our sponsors. When I come back, Zach, John, I want to get your final thoughts.
The Hyper Pole from Ultimate Pool Tools is a pool care pole designed by pool professionals for pool professionals, featuring precision-crafted carbon fiber and stainless steel construction. Go to ultimatepooltools.com or Instagram at Ultimate Pool Tools. Pool pros have specific needs when it comes to general liability insurance. The SPPA program has you covered. With 3 tailored and customizable general liability options, SPPA makes it easy for pool pros to feel secure. Find out more and get covered at thesppa.com.
Okay, guys, welcome back to the Pool Nation podcast. We're talking today about route efficiency. We've kind of gone into a long discussion about it, how to quote rates, things to look at and all that. John, let me get your final thoughts.
Well, my final thoughts are, Edgar, I'm listening to you and I'm very impressed. You've really grown into your radio voice. When we first started, when we first started the podcast, I was listening to us. I was like, oh, well, I guess we're kind of good. But man, Edgar, you got this like voice, bro. You have it, and the way you kind of pronunciate things and the way you kind of pause. I don't know if you've been taking classes or something like that, but you've really evolved, man. You're quite the pleasure to listen to when you're announcing and doing the things you're doing.
Zach. Come on. Oh my God. I want to hear this because 100%. I don't know if he's being serious or he's like April Fool's one day late.
No, he's dead serious because it's so true.
So let me ask you this. Has it been in the last 2 weeks? No?
I think in the last 2 weeks you really stepped it up. Wow, coming at you 100.85.
You know what I mean? Can I confess, John? I have a new mic.
Please. Is that what it is?
So does my voice sound deeper?
It does a little bit. Somewhat. It's the way you pause in the right spot now. The way you accentuate certain words. It's just wow. It's holy shit, man.
Interesting.
We're witnessing the future of broadcasting.
Yeah, right, but here's the thing is, you and Zach are complimenting me, and then look at what I get from the other side. Handsome Dan from Wayne's World.
Zach, the pool boy.
Oh man, that is awesome. That is awesome, bruh. No, anyway, sorry, John.
So that's my final thought.
I appreciate that, John.
No, that was it. You're welcome.
Zach, final thoughts.
I'm not going to be able to top that. But I think John hit on so many key things today, and I'm so guilty of it in the beginning. We tried to have a route in 2015, and it was me, and I would take on any and every pool just because we wanted to grow that route and we wanted to grow it fast. And it did lead to those frustrations, and it did lead to that feeling overwhelmed to the point where I got rid of the route and I said, never again, we're not going to do maintenance. This is terrible. And it wasn't until 2018 that Leslie really talked me into this. We have to do this. We're getting calls all the time. It's that recurring revenue. We have to do it. And I told her, I don't want anything to do with it. You can manage it. And that's what she did. For the first year, it was Leslie managing the route until it just started to grow and become, the machine or the beast. And I had to step in, and then we started really, I really started taking over on that. So, again, it's easy to feel the need to take on any and every customer that calls in. But if you want to build a truly profitable route, you want to make sure that you aren't making moves that work against you. And it's tough. It does take patience and attention to details. But if you're able to be a little patient and build a route that makes sense for you, it will make you so much happier in the long run and so much more successful. And that's where we're at. Like, we could open up the areas that we service and the ads that we run and probably pick up over 100 pools this year. I don't doubt it at all, but I have to keep kind of sitting back and holding off, and it's a little bit slower. But when we do get that pool, it's in the area we need to be in. So, great stuff, John. I mean, really good stuff. And I think everyone really needs to sit down and think about these things.
Agreed 100%. So we've all been there. We talk about profitability. We talk about, making money and all that kind of stuff. But I think John hit on something really big today. And I think, John, the topic probably came at the best time because, you're going through this transition and this frustrating part. And you have to, sit and relook at your route and figure out what those things are that you need to change. And this is exactly what the people out there need to listen to. They need to listen to other people going through that experience so that they can kind of relate to it. And hopefully we get to them early enough in the stage where they could put these things into play, and then they don't have to do what we've done is learn from those mistakes. So anyways, guys, this is the end of the podcast. Zach, John, as usual, thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking the time, and we will talk next week. Bye, guys.
See you guys later.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Pool Nation podcast.